Thank you for joining us today on the Prospecting Today podcast. And we're going to do it a little bit different today because we're going to offer you a video form of this as well. And that's because I'm joined with Curtis Fenn of RedX. He's the Chief Marketing Officer of RedX. And RedX is a technology company that basically does business putting tools in the hands of real estate agents to help them better prospect. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today because what I keep hearing from agents is they're nervous about what's going on in the market. I keep hearing a lot about, I'm nervous it's slowing down. Am I going to have enough business to sustain me? And that's why I wanted to speak with you today. Okay. What is going on in the market?
So what's going on in the market, there's two things going on in the market. One is it is slowing down. It is softening in a lot of markets. And in order to get clicks and headlines, the media is really pushing those negative headlines. I don't think it's as bad as what we're reading. If you're getting all of your market data from your feed in Facebook, it's probably not as bad as what people think. But it is slowing down, and we're starting to see that. We see it differently because we see the amount of expireds and the amount of foreclosure data that's coming in. So even this year, January, February, we're about 10% up in the amount of expired listings that are happening in the marketplace, which is indicative of a shift, of things starting to change.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I'm hearing a lot of people saying, what can I do to recession-proof my business?
Right.
And that's kind of where I think a company like RedX could really help them. So what are some things agents can do to start recession-proofing their business?
That's a great question. I think recession-proofing your business it comes down to, it's not that different of things that you should be doing in a hot market versus a slow market. It's just you've got to start doing them consistently so that you can consistently get good results. We talk to agents all the time about how to create sustainable business or predictable business. And if you do certain things, then you're going to get certain results all the time. And it's the same for our business. We know that if we generate a certain amount of leads and our sales guys have a certain amount of phone calls and conversations with real estate agents, that we can predict what comes out at the bottom of the funnel. And so for real estate agents, they need to do the same thing. They need to have consistent activities of finding new business and ways to convert that business into contracts and eventually commissions.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but what I think is interesting also about RedX, in my research, it looks like you guys started in 2003, so you've weathered some of this recession storm that a lot of agents have lived through. So what I want to know is, in your experience, what kind of techniques or maybe even skill sets did agents who weathered that storm well versus those that didn't? What did you guys see during that time? That's
a great question. And if I could, that's a great question because I think a lot of agents come into the market or come into the industry and they say, they look at top producing agents and they say, what are you doing in your business? And of course, top producing agents say, well, I'm working my sphere of influence or my database. And then new agents try to do that. And what they should be asking is, what did you do in the beginning of your business so that you have a database to work now, right? And so we saw tons of agents throughout the recession that not only weathered the storm, but they actually made more money during the recession than they are now because of the desaturation of realtors in the marketplace. Anybody who didn't know how to run their business during the recession got out of the industry. They went back and got a real job. And I don't mean that offensively. I think a lot of people get into the industry and they don't really know what it's going to take to have a successful business. And then when the market shifts and it gets hard, they're out of here. But that provides a great opportunity for all these other agents if they set their businesses up right. So to answer your question, this again, if you look at a funnel and a sales funnel, that's what we do in marketing and sales. At the top of the funnel, you need to put people consistently in the top of the funnel. And of course, we believe that prospecting is the way to do that. We don't think that prospecting, and I think this is what I love about what you guys are doing, is prospecting isn't just about expireds or for sale by owners or cold calling, but it's about consistently finding new business. But NAR for years came out with a report that always said the top 5 ways to get business. It was expireds, it was FSBOs, it was a geographic farm, and it was your past clients and your sphere of influence, referrals. And I think that fundamentally is where people should focus their time and effort on those 5 areas to find new business. But the people who are doing it best, the people who weathered the recession really well, are the ones that worked the expireds, the for sale by owners, the for rent by owners, all of these other lead types, the just listed, just sold type prospecting, because whenever they converted one of those leads to a client and got their home sold, then that person became part of their sphere of influence. They became part of their database that would consistently give them business. And I tell you what, if you take an expired listing homeowner who may have a bad experience in the industry, they may look at their previous experience as the agent's fault. And I'm not saying it always is, because sometimes you have unrealistic expectations from the homeowner. But in their eyes, their perception is, I've had this negative experience. And if you then go and you get their home sold, you're the hero. And they will become one of your best evangelists in your database to bring you referrals and repeat business, because you did something that another agent couldn't do.
Yeah, we hear a lot that people, it's kind of like your home will expire, and then that very day you'll get flooded with calls, and it's super annoying to the homeowner, but you're saying think of it differently.
Yeah.
If you're the homeowner.
Oh, absolutely.
Had a failed experience.
Yeah, I wish I could talk to every homeowner whose home is going to expire, and I wish I could warn them and say, you're going to get a bunch of phone calls, and some of those are our customers, some of them are our competitors' customers, some of them are just agents who are doing the research on their own. But what an opportunity to interview the right agent, when you get all those phone calls, to get the home sold.
Yeah, exactly.
Because what happens overnight, they wanted to sell their home for 6 months or whatever the contract period, and then all of a sudden they decide when it expires, I don't want to sell their home. I mean, they still want to get that home sold. So yeah, I mean, I wish they would look at it differently.
So if I'm an agent and I feel like, okay, market forces are telling me it's slowing down, what's the number one thing I can start doing now to maybe feel better about the situation, like I too will weather that potential storm?
So I think the number one thing that people should do is get back in touch with all of your past clients and your sphere of influence, your center of influence. And I think people are often surprised where they hear RedX say that. But even our best clients, the number one source of business is your sphere of influence. It's the easiest business you can get. In our experience, when we talk to people, most people don't actually work their database, their sphere of influence. And so the first thing that they need to do is find a reason to get back in touch with everybody that that you should be being in touch with. Put them on a list for a market update. Put them on your list to receive your vlog or some sort of video update, anything, something, and I'm not a huge fan of like recipes and things like that, but if that's better than nothing, being in touch with them is probably the first thing they need to do, because even if things slow down, there are still people buying and selling. Real estate.
You touched on that, and what I like about what you bring to the table is you bring marketing experience, and that's a form of marketing. And a lot of stuff I'm reading is, why don't you send them something every 3 months that's relevant to them, that's interesting? It could be content marketing. So some of the research I'm doing about how to recession-proof your business is use this time to beef up your content marketing. Talk a little bit about that. What can agents be doing in terms of like you said, be in touch? But if I'm an agent and I'm like, okay, he says be in touch, but really tangibly, what does that mean? How do they do it in a way that's interesting maybe to their wide vast of people they've met along the way?
So I think there's reasons, there's always a reason to call, and you can start with easy things. You should be calling people on their birthday. You should be calling them on their anniversary that they bought their home, or that they closed a deal, or those type of excuses, just to say congratulations. Remind them that you were the one that helped them buy or sell that real estate. So that's an easy place to start without feeling like you're being a salesperson. The other thing is, people need to not be ashamed of their profession. And I see that all the time in real estate, is people are afraid of what they do, and so they don't want to be the person that calls their sphere of influence to say, hey, do you know anybody right now buying or selling real estate?
Right.
And so they can't be ashamed, and they need to be okay calling and telling people, hey Kim, I'm a real estate agent. Remember, do you know anybody around you that is buying or selling? And that's okay. And you'll know on the first phone call if you can do that frequently, or if you should space that out with the person that you're talking to. The other thing is things have shifted. Things have shifted in the way we sell, in the way we gather information, and all of the information that someone needs about real estate is at their fingertips with Google, right? What people really need is an agent that will synthesize or distill the information that they're reading. They're reading all of these headlines. They're seeing it because that's how the news is getting clicks. They're seeing what's going on in the marketplace. They need somebody to distill that down into what does that mean for me as a homeowner in my marketplace. And an agent is perfectly positioned to be that expert, to come in and start talking to people about, hey, you know, maybe you read this headline in our local newspaper this week. This is what it means to you as a homeowner. And people are going to appreciate that. Not only that, but that's not pushy. That's not being a salesperson. That's giving confidence to the homeowner that you know what you're talking about. But also it may help them with some anxiety that they're having about the marketplace. What's going on with my equity? Am I going to lose equity? Is now a good time to refinance? You know, all of those questions that our clients have, you know, they are perfectly positioned to come in and be the hero and be the expert and interpret the information that people are seeing. So I think that's another way to get out there and start talking to your sphere of influence is that's the content that they need. Yeah. They may not care about the recipes or right. You know, things like that.
So that's not an annoying way to reach out to them.
Right.
But another maybe very simple way too is you sell a home in a neighborhood. What a great way to send out a flyer like I sold this home for this amount, just so you guys know this is what's happening in your neighborhood.
That's exactly right, and that's our GeoLeads product. Is a geographic area where you can you know, take an address and you can pull all of the homeowner information for the whole neighborhood, and that way you could communicate with them in, you know, any way you want to communicate, including Facebook or whatever. Right. And talk to people about, hey, this is what's going on in your neighborhood. In fact, it's a really great way if you work with buyers and if you want to do open houses, that's a perfect way to invite the whole neighborhood around because everybody wants to know what's going on.
Right.
And then again, you're there positioned as the expert of this is what's going on in your neighborhood in the marketplace.
Right, that's a great way to do it. And I think a way that takes the pressure off you of reminding people, like you said, hey, I sell homes.
Yeah.
You know, let me help you.
Yeah.
So again, I think the bottom line of what you're saying is if it feels like it's slowing down, it just doesn't mean that you can lay off of prospecting. If anything, you need to ramp it up.
You need to ramp it up. And that's the second thing. So the first thing is get in touch with your sphere of influence. The second thing is find other sources of business. And I see a lot of agents that get out there and spend a tremendous amount of money on internet leads and lead lists and things that have really slow, 3 to 4% conversion over an 18-month period. Mm-hmm. And they're spending thousands of dollars when you could just pick up the phone and call all the for sale by owners in your marketplace. Mm-hmm. Or you call all the vacant rentals and talk to the landlords about what their plan is in the marketplace. Maybe they're ready to cash out. And we saw people wanting to do that even in the recession because they happen to have owned their home for 30 years. So they still had equity, right? And they still wanted to cash out. So you have to find another source. We did some research a long time ago with our top agents, and this was, questions about how did you weather the recession the first time. And any agent that made over $250,000 a year had 5, it was like 4.7 was the average, but 5 different sources to get business.
Oh, very interesting.
Not just one or two. So they didn't just work expires or they didn't just work by referral, but they had all of these things. I mean, this goes back to, rich dad, poor dad type, multiple streams of income and things like that. You got to look at your business the same way and say, you know what, I need all of these pillars to stabilize my business so that if one leg gets kicked out from under the table, there's still enough holding it up.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, call expireds, but also do some Facebook advertising. Also be in touch with all of your sphere of influence. Also get in touch with for sale by owners.
also get out and knock doors, because our research shows that the highest income earners are still knocking doors. Which it blows your mind. You're like, these people that are making a lot of money are still showing up cold in neighborhoods and knocking doors as a revenue source. And it works for them.
It's amazing.
So that's very interesting. So you have to diversify where you're getting your leads. Is there any type of a lead source that kind of blew your mind when you heard it? Like, oh, I hadn't heard that one before, that it was bringing people business, just something kind of interesting?
Facebook continues to surprise me on what agents are doing with Facebook is pretty impressive. I think it's hard. It's a very expensive learning curve in the beginning for a lot of people, but that one always surprised me. One of our lead sources that continues to impress me with the results people are getting is our for rent by owner product. And what that is it's vacant rental properties. So when somebody advertised to fill a vacancy in their rental, we go and turn that into a lead that an agent can prospect. And we are getting emails all the time where somebody will make a phone call, find out no other agents are calling these leads, so it's not like you're competing on an expired. They're calling these landlords. Typically it's a business conversation because they own this property. It's an income producing property. And the conversation goes one of three ways. Either they go, well, actually I could use help, with the rental. And a lot of agents are doing property management also, which is something we saw increase drastically in the recession as another form of income for brokerages and offices is rental property management. So it's that, but a lot of times they want to offload the property and just cash out. So it's a great listing opportunity. And then a lot of times they go, well, I don't want to sell, but I do want to buy more rental properties. So now all of a sudden you have an investor to put into your database for when you find it, you have a good deal. And so those are amazing. One of the emails we got just last week was somebody that had called. They just, on the first phone call, he said, yeah, let's set up the appointment. Got to the appointment. The guy had 11 properties in his portfolio that he wanted to sell all 11 of them.
Oh, wow.
Ended up being $1.3 million in volume just from that one phone call to a for rent by owner.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so anything else you'd like to add on how to recession-proof your business?
It's as cliche as it is about, doing things that other people are not willing to. That's where success is found. It's true. It's and if you pick up the phone or you go knock the doors, you have to go find more people to put into your database and then continue to work your database. And maybe that's the formula that we should have started with is the best, easiest business comes from your sphere of influence, your past clients, your referrals, your database. But you have to constantly be finding business in other places to add people to that. Because that's not just how you recession-proof your business, but that's how you eventually build a sustainable business that doesn't take nearly as much work. If you put in the work on the front end, the back end, that business will just continue to come in over and over and over.
Yeah, that's great. So if people want to learn more about RedX, how do they find you and what you guys have to offer?
Right, so the website is theredx.com, THEREDX.com. And they can get on there and learn everything there is to know. We're all about the tools, all about the leads, and all about helping people to find business so that they can have that predictability, that sustainability that we all want in our business.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us, Curtis, and thank you guys as well for joining us. And if you want to learn more about Prospecting Today, just come to our website at prospectingtoday.com.